Hey, what's up, Life Without Pants with another Path of Exile video. In today's video, we're going to cover our League start plans for Path of Exile 2 early access. It starts in 5 hours as of recording this video. It'll probably be around 4 hours by the time you get to see this. But I've been dancing around a build idea. I'm not really sure this is a fully functional idea, but this is what we're going to try to do. So this, as all best builds, are illustrated in paint. That's what we've got here. So there's a few things. The reasoning behind this build is, I think Path of Exile 2 is much more dangerous. Bosses are much more dangerous. Bosses have a lot more life apparently, and I think bossing is going to be quite important. I think it's going to be, especially like just the map bosses. I think the 1 in 4 map bosses that we find during the end game is going to be, they're going to drop a lot of loot. It's going to be a lot of good loot as well. And I want to lean into Magic Find quite a bit. I think this build is a good way to start off with that, and let's just go through it. So I think due to the bossing aspect of this, I want to do a lot of clear, but I want to be able to do bosses, really, is what I'm saying. I want to be able to do the bosses. And a lot of the builds I've been doing have just been, you know, tornado shot or very, very squishy builds, but high damage output. And I think this build is got a lot of, it's got a little bit of recoup, it's got a lot of regen for energy shield. It's, it is built quite tanky, and it can have a lot of damage output as well. So with the bosses, I've illustrated the boss here. He's very angry. He's got like these angry biceps with power lines coming off them. So this is the boss that we're trying to kill, and we've got some skeletal minions around here. Now the skeletal minions, they do passive damage, so they're just constantly wailing on the boss, doing largely fizz damage, I think. And we also have a skeletal cleric and a skeletal sniper. I've dropped the sniper now, but we've got the minions doing passive damage, and they serve 2 purposes. Number 1, they do passive damage, and number 2, they're an additional target for the boss to focus on rather than us. We don't want this to be focused on by the boss. So we've got a bunch of additional monsters for the boss to focus on. There's me and you over here, little heart. We've got the wings from the Twitch reveal coming out the back of our neck there, a cool wand. And we're going to be letting the boss focus on the minions. It probably won't work. The AI will probably not work like that. So then the minions will still do the passive damage. So whether they are defensive or offensive, they still have a purpose. And then we're going to put a sigil of OP-ness down here. So a sigil of power. And it's a very wide spell. I think it's like 4 or 5 meters or something like that. And sigil of power, like you can dodge roll around inside it. It's very big. So we're going to put the sigil of power down. And the sigil of power does a few things. It grants up to 4 stages, and the stages grant 14% more spell damage per stage, and you can only gain 1 stage each second, I believe it is. So, but maximum 4 stages, so that's 56% more spell damage. The way you get to those stages is just burning through your mana pool. So we want to have a very high amount of mana regen, and we want to have lots and lots of spells to be, doing lots of damage with. And we want to have some clear. The minions are going to help with the clear, but we want to have some clear as well. We're not always going to be putting sigil of power down. That's more for bossing, for when you have like focus down a rare or a unique monster. But we want the ability to do some clear outside of our minions, and then to be able to really like power down a boss. And for the bossing section, we're going to be using frostbolt. So I got these little pew pew pew, these little bullets here, these little frostbolt bullets, and the frostbolt puts down chilled ground underneath it. And we do this frostbolt, and then we do Eye of Winter over the top. And Eye of Winter, it's this sort of spinning eye, I guess, and it has all these shards coming off of it. And the eye doesn't do any damage itself, but the shards do. And they also pick up ground effects as they go. So if we do the Eye of Winter over the frostbolt, then all of our shards will chill. Now, that means we're going to slow down everything on the screen. Again, stuff is much more dangerous in PoE2, so we need to be able to slow stuff. We want to keep things from hitting us in the first place. There's, obviously a great offense is that you don't need defense at that point. But I want to stick with the fact that we're gonna get hit. We're gonna get hit a lot, and whether we like it or not, we're not gonna go pure evasion or anything. But we're gonna get hit as in Path of Exile 2 all the time. There's no footage I've seen where people are just constantly never getting hit. So we're gonna get hit a bunch. So we've got to deal with that. And if we slow everything down, it's going to hit us less. So we want to chill the boss, we want to freeze the boss, and Eye of Winter is great for clear as well. So Eye of Winter across the Frostbolt into the boss, and then if there's adds that the boss has spawned, then this is going to chill those, going to slow those down, give our minions time to focus them down. And then we're just going to pump a bunch of comets straight into the boss as hard as we can. And that is going to get us all the way up to stage 4 in Sigil of Power. I think it's 50% of your mana you have to go through per stage, so we have to burn through 200% of our mana, and I think that's definitely possible with Comet. We can put Spell Echo on Comet as well. There's a node on a tree that gives us 24% chance for skills to fire 2 additional projectiles, so it's a 1 in 4 chance that we get 4 comets, which is a lot of damage. And then we pick up the loot. That's the whole idea. That's the whole idea. And how are we gonna do this? Oh, man, I'm so ready. So here's a PoE2skills.com. This is where we've been just like messing around with stuff. And for our Skeletal Warriors, we're going with Skeletal Warriors. I have Frost Mages in here. I might drop them. In fact, let's drop them now. There we go, we don't need them anymore. So Skeletal Warriors and Skeletal Brutes. So largely melee focused minions. And the warriors, they're going to have added cold damage, so they just do so. All their fizz damage does start to chill, or it adds to the chill limit, or freeze maximum, whatever it is. We're going to put blind support in here as well, so they have a 15% chance to blind enemies on hit, and that means that the blind enemies have less accuracy. They're less likely to hit us, more survivability for us and for our minions. Elemental armies in here, just to make them a bit more tanky. I think we're probably going to drop this Essence Harvest, so that when they do die, we get a lot of mana back. I think this is useful, and I might drop it for maybe an SRS setup or something like that. And then faster attacks, just so they're wailing on that boss as quickly as possible. And these you get fairly early on. Now, it says here this has got a reservation of 60 spirit. That's incorrect. I think it's a lot less now. They've redone spirit recently, so we redid a few things in here. We'll find out in about 5 hours. But here we got Skeletal Brutes. We're going to put Overpower in them because the Brutes, they're much more likely to stun, or they have a stun build-up. So hits with supported skills cause 80% more stun build-up. And then Devastate. So supported skills fully break armor when inflicting a heavy stun, because these Skeletal Brutes can stun primed enemies. I'm not sure how the priming works. Maybe we'll have to drop the Devastate. And then I put Feeding Frenzy in here because they seem like they're going to be much more strong. Big bonk and strong, and so I'll put Feeding Frenzy in just so that they're aggressive and they go and when we're clearing or when we're zooming through a map, then they remove all of the little minions, all of the little monsters around. I got a Cleric in here. I think I would only have one. They don't need much spirit, but they're just there to revive our minions and heal them as we go. Temp Chains I think is going to be an insanely good curse. It's I think 30. It's basically action speed reduced by a third. And that's nuts. I mean, if you had, 3 seconds to dodge an attack, you now have 4. It's a lot. It's a lot. And it also means that you're going to have so much more freedom in boss fights to zoom around, maybe evade stuff. Comet, I'm going in here with Spell Echo and Cold Mastery, so +1 to level of supported cold skills. I think Comet is going to be doing a ton of damage. It's going to cost 92 mana. It's a lot, but it's got a fairly good critical strike chance. I think we might try and pump the crit up for Comet and see where we can land with that. Sigil of Power. This again, it's 50% of your maximum mana while in the area. Maximum 4 stages, 40% more spell damage per stage. Minimum 1 stage between 1 second between getting stages, and the radius is 3 meters, and the duration is 12 seconds. So we could throw in a few things here, but I threw in Vitality, so that we could just sit in there and regen just in case we need to. And Clarity, so we get 20% increased mana regen. Now, later on, we're not going to be using Vitality and Sigil of Power because we're probably going to have such a high ES pool that we're not going to need it. Then we've got Frostbolt and faster casting, just so we can like beep, 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 beep. And I think I might put Culling Strike in here as well, because it's a nice, easy way to just take the boss down. And whilst it adds a little bit of intelligence requirement, it's not too worrisome. And then Eye of Winter. And Eye of Winter, we're doing Pierce, so the shards pierce stuff as they go, and then fast projectiles, so we can really use it as a clear skill as well. So this is what it looks like for the skills. When it comes to gear, obviously we want plus level of cold spells, we want cold damage, we want minions, that kind of stuff. I think Merit of Service, Pelage Targe, this could be really, really strong for this build, because it says here allies in presence have block chance equal to yours, and you have 36% chance to block with this and it's a was it a level 8 shield. So there's a level 8 unique, but a level 8 shield, and this means all of our minions have 36% chance to block, which means that they block a third of the time. So it's almost like they reduce the amount of damage they take by 36%. So that's very strong. I think later on we would also want to go with Duedre's Damning, because this gives us an additional curse. And then we're going to throw on maybe Enfeeble on the boss so that they don't do as much damage. Or maybe Frostbite, I'm assuming that's around, it's, like the cold curse, so reduce their cold resistances. Duedre's Damning, so we can definitely Temp Chains, definitely Enfeeble, and then probably something else as well. This is the skill tree where, oh no, this is not skill, this is a skill tree, so this is a useful skill tree. This is another one where you can actually plan out stuff already. So you can see here we've taken these mana regenerate. I think having a lot of mana and a lot of energy shield and mana regenerate is going to be very important for this. So we're going through taking some minion nodes. We're not taking the chaos stuff, but then taking the increase max mana, increase percent mana, energy shield recharge rate, and then coming over here to get the pen. Now there's a difference between pen and exposure. So pen or penetration will only take an enemy's resistance down to 0. So if an enemy has 25% resistance to something and you penetrate 30%, you only remove their resistance down to 0. Whereas exposure can go into the negatives. So and you can tell on the tree, because there's I think 2 nodes on the tree that we know so far that actually do exposure, and like 8 that do penetration. So clearly exposure is better. There's this wheel over here which has got some penetration for lightning and cold. So I'll take this. I think the minions definitely going to get us through the campaign, definitely going to get us through a bunch of bossing, and maybe later on I want to go full elemental damage and just drop the minions, because there's a lot of points for minions, but they can be very, very useful early on. I think when we're gearing up, it's going to be really useful to have them around until we're like super tanky. So we get some pen over here, we come over here, there's a lot of mana nodes here, and then there's elemental damage nodes over here, there's this energy shield stuff, there's some 3% increased spell damage per 100 maximum mana. Now I think we can definitely get around 3k mana in this. So this is 90% increased spell damage, right? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's 90% increased spell damage. So that's a lot. And I think eventually we're going to end up with int stacking, mana stacking, Archmage probably Archmage. Over here we've got the increased mana cost of skills, but then Archmage obviously it makes skills cost a lot more mana, but it means our Sigil of Power is going to just go pop 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 pop, and then we're going to be 56% more damage. Like, it's going to be so quick. We're going to be able to burn through 50% of our mana very easily. This node here, you can't actually see it very well, but it just looks like a gigantic intelligence node. Like if you look at this, it just looks like a gigantic intelligence thing. So I think this is probably for int stacking. Then there's one here, recharge rate. We're taking all of these lightning damage and cold damage nodes. We're not going to bother with fire, I don't think. And then coming over here, there's some resistances, like +1 max all res. That's really strong, because that's essentially you're going from 25% resistance down to 24% resistance. So you're taking 4% less elemental damage in total. And then in the minion nodes, we got this Lord of Horrors. Minions have 12% reduced reservation. This is ridiculously strong. This is ridiculously strong. So I think we're definitely going to be going for that because it just gives us a bunch extra minions. And then eventually Mind Over Matter. So I think, honestly, I think maybe 3 days in, we'll probably drop our minions. 2 days, maybe 1 day. We'll see how it goes. But this is what we're looking at. And this is 114 out of 122. So if we did drop the minions, then there's a bunch here. There's about 20, 30 points on here that we could drop for the minions for, and then just go all in on mana, intelligence, energy shield recharge rate, and elemental skills. And then end up with lots and lots of damage. And obviously that means our ascendancy has got to be Stormweaver. And the reason for this is I was looking at these the other day, and the ones that we had seen, they weren't that good, honestly. I think we had, was it this one, Elemental Storm on crit hit with spells. I don't think that's going to be good. I want it to be good, because then it's a really good reason to go crit, but well, I don't think it's going to be good. And then Rain Dancer, Elemental Storm has 150% more cooldown recovery rate. We had you can have 2 shocks, but this node here, number 8, you have Arcane Surge. I thought like, oh, Arcane Surge, that's not that great. But then Arcane Surge does 10% more cast speed and 20% more mana regen rate. That's a lot. That is a lot. And then number 9 is 1% increased effect of Arcane Surge on you per 15 maximum mana. And again, I think we're going to be able to get to easily 3k mana. So if we do 3,000 divided by 15, that's 200. So that's 200% increased effect of Arcane Surge. So that is a lot of mana regen rate. You're looking at 60% or something. 6% more mana regen rate. And 30% more cast speed. So you're just going to be like, pop, 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 pop. This spell's going everywhere. As far as the other 2 Ascendancy nodes, I'm not really sure. I think Double Chill could be good, because then we can... The Double Chill, because up to 35% max chill, that could be good if it stacks. So if we have 2 chills on the enemy, and they both do 35% reduced action speed, then is that 70%? Or is it some other funky maths or something? If that is 70%, and then we can temp chains them for another 34%, then we could, they could be permanently frozen. And that could be incredibly good for bosses. You just permanently freeze them, you permanently temp chains them, they can never move. Amazing. But is it? I don't know. So, and then Shaper of Winter, all damage from hits contributes to chill magnitude. Because if we have enough, say we're in the Sigil of Power and we put it down and our minions are going off at the boss, and we can use Heavy Snows and we're throwing comets at them, we curse them with temp chains, so down to 34% action speed, or minus 34%, and then we can take off another 35% from one of our chills, and we're just pumping comets into them again and again and again, especially with the node that gives us maybe 4 comets every 4 times. Are we going to be able to permafreeze the bosses? I hope so, because then that's going to get nerfed straight away. So I think I might do that. Shaper of Winter, all damage from hits contributes to chill magnitude. So this could be very, very strong. I think it's what I'm definitely going to go Arcane Surge first, and then I might not go Force of Will second. I might go for the chills or something, or the shock. There's exposure you inflict lowers the effective resistance by additional 20% as well. Depending on if we get exposure from the tree or on gear, then I might take that as well. But definitely Arcane Surge first, because the amount of stuff you get from it is really, really insane. Anyway, that's it for me. Honestly, it's went on a lot longer than I wanted it to, but it's 5 hours and 19 minutes left. So with that, I hope you have a wonderful day. If you have any questions, chuck them in the comments. I'll try to get to them before League launch. But I hope to see you on the beach. I hope you are kind to everyone you meet. I love you all very much. And I'll see you next time. Cheers.